Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George Affleck.
And it's time for...
UnSpun!
Wow!
I had nothing this week.
It took 44 weeks. It took 44 episodes for you to just be like, I don't know.
Still entertaining though, really.
Super entertaining. Perhaps as entertaining and mishmashy as what we've got going on. There's a lot to cover off as we have each and every week. And we're going to kind of touch on some stuff that we sort of were getting ahead of last week on episode 43. But let's go federal first, because watching this morning, federal conservative leader Andrew Scheer, just basically an ad for Spin on a question.
Related to...
Do you personally consider homosexuality a sin?
And his answer was pretty much like, I'm the Canadians.
I love all
Canadians, and whatever Canadians want, then that's what the policies will be, kind of. Which is, I guess that comes down to a question: is what part of your personal life should come into politics? I mean, sexuality, and I think it's Trudeau one who said we have no right to be in the bedrooms of our Canadians, and that goes for politicians. And
that would have been a better answer.
Yeah, I mean, just like, what has this got to do with anything? Look at our policies. And
he could have said, my personal beliefs are irrelevant because in Canada, government has no place in the bedroom of Canadians, period. That would have been better than what he did say, because what he tried to do is kind of go around spin the chair around, make you dizzy, and then at the very end goes, and that includes LGBTQ people. That's the first time.
Or say, I have no plans to change the existing policies, the way the
which
laws.
Which he kind of said.
Yeah, but... So
anyways, do you think
do
you think he gets another kick at the can?
Well, that's the other thing that happened this week for him. This is sort of wrapping up our federal sort of fun times over the last few months. But although I'm sure more things will come, his caucus and the people who were elected have said it's all good. But then he's got to go back to the whole membership of Conservatives, and we'll see if he passes muster. I just think that you look at some polling, it's pretty close to 50-50 on stay and go. So, I don't know. I mean, if you think about personalities, Harper's wasn't like a dynamo. They could argue that it just give him more time, and it's an inevitable win. And
because the pendulum will swing.
Yeah.
Because in politics, it swings from one.
Generally. It doesn't matter. It's not about leadership. So voting whoever was in out.
Right.
So,
which you've been saying over.
Yes, but I just think that he lost that election because they ran a terrible campaign. It appears, as has been reported by many. Their ground game was weak. They didn't get their vote out. These are basics in politics, and that comes from leadership.
Yeah.
Whether his campaign team or not, but the leader chooses the campaign team. So. With a minority government, the election can come any time.
I didn't know that the leader chooses the campaign team.
Yeah, generally you find your team, and they're the ones.
I would think the party,
because as I've said before, you can't trust many people in politics as far as you have your close circle of people, and those are the people you keep with you for your entire life as a politician, usually.
Yeah.
And they come with you on this journey, and so. He's made his choices on his team, and to switch those team members out is never easy to do. You can see when politicians don't have those people in place, or don't have a team they can trust, or don't have an infrastructure at all, or have never been in politics, and they bring in all these people, and they're told, you got to hire this guy, or this guy, or this is a team you should have.
And a whole bunch of novices screw it all up. Yeah.
I can say the NPA in the last election. I mean, Ken Sim came in there, and he had no experience, and he brought in several campaign managers who came and went for whatever reasons, and he ended up losing an election he absolutely should have won. And so there's an example of, if you don't have a good team, you don't have people you can trust that will drive forward with you. And so did Scheer have the wrong team in place? Are his team not good enough? It's hard to say. So, because personality-wise, he's not much different than Harper, really.
No.
So we'll see, but time will tell. As
time will tell. We'll keep you posted.
Cliches of politics.
We will keep you posted. Oh, sorry, my
journalism.
Sorry, my phone's dinging.
Oh no!
Don't call me. I'm busy right now. Okay, so that's federal. That's just touching on federal a little bit. Let's go provincial. It's day 7 now of the transit strike. strike-y-ish work, job action?
Yeah.
Job action
Job
is
action.
what we'll call it. It's been fascinating to sort of watch and listen to the coverage. Of course, I fill in all the time at CKNW, so I listen a lot to when I'm doing my errands and driving around and whatnot. I'm listening to Simi Sarah or Linda Steele, and I'm hearing the players within it, the union representative, the TransLink representatives that are
Coast Mountain.
Coast Mountain,
so
sorry,
you got
Coast Mountain.
Mike
My bad.
McDaniel, who was the former CEO of P&E.
P&E, love that guy.
Yeah, he's very even-handed kind of guy.
Very
but
good dude.
I've never seen. He's being. They're being quite aggressive on the PR side for him. I've never seen. He's quite available, which is unusual. And actually, the union people are quite available too. So you
very. That's exactly where I was going to go, George.
Yeah.
I'm hearing them both every day, and the biggest sort of impact thus far is C-Bus, right? The cancellations there, because they're the way things are managed. So I'm not going to go into the minutiae of it, because recording a podcast on a Thursday, it drops on a Friday, it could change by... the one thing that I did, and I will give credit to, it is the union that I heard say this, when Simi just asked, will there be any sort of escalation on Remembrance Day? And they said, absolutely not.
Yeah, that's bad PR.
I like the fact, because a lot of people get to where they're going to honor veterans in this city, in this province, in this country, but in the city by transit. Because to get where you're going on Remembrance Day, I mean, it's busy. It gets busy to get down to the Cenotaph. Anyway, I dig, and then Simi said, how about the rest of next week? And they're like, can't guarantee anything in the next week.
I mean, public good and public perceptions and having the public behind you, whether you're the bosses or the workers, that's what you're fighting. That's what clearly they're both fighting for that now. They're trying to win over the public support for both their sides, and they're off by like 5%, I think.
It is about 5% from what I'm hearing, and there's the discrepancies within the structure of Coast Mountain as well. Like, why do some repair people, tradespeople that work on keeping the systems up and running, mechanics and whatnot, get paid exponentially more than other mechanics? Like within the unionized, there's some real discrepancies in there that they're trying to. But the money isn't there to bridge the gap between those. So it's like, from what I understand, that there's that some of what's being pushed out from one side is being disputed by the other side. Like I can feel it's getting more and more acrimonious, and I'm like, will this all come to a head when it's exam time for college and university students? Will it all come to a head around Christmas time when it couldn't get crazier or busier? Like, can you imagine? I mean, you can imagine, because you remember the last transit strike, and it was an absolute debacle for.
Well, it gives you a little taste of what it would be like if we had no transit.
Right.
I mean, we'll still have SkyTrain running, but it'll be jammed. There's certain ones will still be running.
We're jammed already.
Yeah, and it's an argument, and I'm not sure if this is part of their collective bargaining as far as automated vehicles. This is the future. We all know that. It's coming faster than we all thought it would. Say 20 years from now, buses won't need drivers at all. Right. And so that's got to be very threatening to, if you're a 25-year-old bus driver and you're going, well, what? This is my
So why not pay them up front? If there is no 15 years from now to worry about having to pay it, like, if transit is growing exponentially, and that's the goal, getting people out of cars and into transit, utilizing it, it's a greener way to go. There's so many upsides and positives from transit. And then from the driver's perspective, I'm going to look at, because we'll talk teachers in a second, because it's similar to that, because then you look at how much are the brass making? Like, how much, there's money in this. It's just not trickling down to the people who don't have time to get a pee break in. They'll get penalized if they're late.
Of course, we all know, because we've all been on buses and see the abuse that bus drivers get.
No doubt.
It's not a glamorous job, that's for sure, but it does pay pretty well, doesn't it?
Does it?
I don't know. I mean, my nephew, who's 16, it's his dream job.
Is it?
It's been his dream job since he was a little kid. He wants to be a bus driver.
That's great.
It's like he's all into the bus driving world. And I actually used to work for cleaning buses when I was at university, so I know a lot of bus drivers. And,
I remember your cleaning bus stories. That
I have
sounds
a lot of bus driver
disgusting.
friends, but mostly in the private sector. But some of them worked for transit for a long time, and then they left and went back. They retired and then go work in the private sector, driving these big giant buses on to Whistler or whatever. So it's an important job. job, and we all, for those of us who live in the metro area, we rely on these buses to get us around, and trains and public transit. As we grow by 25,000 people per year in this region, is really, really important because we can't add cars. Was that somebody posted this on Twitter, and I reposted it, and people were quite shocked by it. It was a photo of, I think it was Los Angeles, of the
I remember this.
12 lanes. Yep. It was actually quite a beautiful
what they were
shot.
used
Anyways,
for?
it was like red and yellow and white. It was just like ridiculous because you build a new road. I think the tweet was basically, in 1980, we wanted to add a road, and then it got filled, and then we got another road, it got filled, another road, it got filled, another lane. You never reach the perfect number.
Yeah.
Which is an argument about the bridge, and that's been a big issue this week, the bridge where the tunnel replacement. There's people who argue, why put a 12-lane bridge when we know it's just going to fill up? I mean, that's always an argument about transportation engineering is...
Because the tunnel is a death trap.
Yes, and it can't take a lot of vehicles in it either.
Sorry. That was just my little rant.
And they're going to put another one beside it. So
I know. Okay, so we're going to keep you updated on the transit situation. Those were just our unspun opinions on sort of what we're seeing. There's no real clear right or wrong. It's just, wow, this could really impact the public. If you're not paying attention, now's the time to actually engage and pay attention to what's happening.
I don't know any kids, like within my kids' age group, that have
driver's license.
My son finally got his. My daughter's 23, still no driver's license. None of my nieces and nephews have driver's licenses. They just take buses and trains everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it, but they travel. They don't drive.
Number one thing I wanted when I turned 16, the next day.
I turned 16. I was at the old Cloverdale filling out.
I was in Richmond.
Yeah. All right.
Yep, I was. Okay. Speaking of being kids, also the union negotiation watch going on with the teachers, the BCTF and the NDP, similar.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Deadlock to what the...
On the what? This is the classroom size thing, which is...
Class size and composition is the stumbling block.
So we're back at the classroom size issue. I just think that, there's so many things about school. I think we've talked about this before, about teachers being paid properly, which is, these are important people in our lives if you have kids. Kind of crucial to society.
Even if you don't have kids, the kids in school today will be the doctors of tomorrow, will be the caretakers of us tomorrow. So even if you don't have children, you are invested in education.
Yeah.
Like, you want to see what happens when education is no longer a priority? Look south.
I know, and you look at classrooms and you look at
composition.
And back to my nephew who wants to be a bus driver. He was being pushed into this education that he didn't really have any interest in. So finally, through teacher engagement and through my sister's role, let's find a way that's better for you for what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I look at my kids, my youngest son, and he has ADHD, and a lot of kids who are 11 and 12 in this age group have ADHD, and you look at the challenges compared to when we were kids. I mean, I don't even remember. Maybe I had ADHD and they didn't diagnose it, but because I was like the class clown, and so I was the teacher's nightmare.
You still are.
I know. I just just look
my
at my
favorite
politics.
nightmare.
Yes, but I was a real problem in, especially in junior high school. But it's the amount. It seems like teachers have to do way more work now than they used to when we were kids. And I'm not sure if it's the parenting or if it's just the nature.
Probably a combination of all of that. I've said it before here on UnSpun podcast, and in the Orca, actually, at the orca.ca, you can read my current column, which has sort of a...
That's right.
A little bit of a...
lunch.
It does.
I didn't know that you went to... I forgot. I did know this, but you went to chef school.
I did. I went to Pierre de Brule Culinary Academy, which was a very prestigious school that's now Pika. It is now a culinary academy. It just kind of moved down the road to the entrance of Granville Island there.
So you know food.
I have a red seal.
Wow.
I have like that trait. So
you had to yell at people and call them donkeys and make what was Gordon Ramsay's head sandwich? Was it?
No. No.
But that's why people became chefs.
Yes.
So they could yell at
I will tell you though that the most difficult work environment that I've experienced being a woman in was culinarily. And I was very young at the time, for that matter, but I was the only woman in the kitchen. So I got into sports broadcast so I could be the only woman in the broadcast room. But it didn't bother me as much because I'd already been. Anyways, read my story, because what happened was I was on Twitter and I was starting to hear rumors that the Vancouver School Board was looking at changing the teaching cafeteria courses and sort of farming it out instead of having a teacher in the
where
classroom.
it works now in high school. This is
Yes,
high school, where they
high
have
school.
kids who want to learn how to cook. They are the people that make the food in the cafeteria.
For the whole school,
okay.
CAF class. I was so lucky at South
My
Delta
kids
Senior.
are not cookers. They don't like to cook.
Right,
Neither do I,
but
you know.
if they had had an opportunity to be in this teaching classroom that I had,
Yeah.
it honestly, read my column. I'm very, very
Orca.
passionate about this at the orca.ca because it's about learning life skills, and food is certainly a life skill, and that goes back to ADHD.
Yes.
Now and back
Food.
in the day.
How
Kids
many-
don't get food in school.
They just started at my kids' school making them. This is the way, and I've been on about this for 3 kids now, where they would let them run off at noon, boom, and my kids, all 3 of my kids would come home. My daughter not so bad, but my boys, come home and the lunch wasn't touched.
Yeah.
And you go, what would you do? Well, the bell went and we went off and we played and then I forgot. You're like,
Yeah.
Eat your lunch. You're going crazy by 2:00. Your brain has got no food and
Yeah, they're not
no
paying
nourishment,
attention.
no protein, and teachers are wondering why your kid is going cuckoo. It's because
Can't sit
he's
still.
starving.
Yeah.
So they've started at his schools. They now give them that first 15 minutes at 12. They have to stay in the classroom and eat their lunch, which is the way it used to work when I was a kid. There was an argument I had with the school. They said it was, because we don't want mice in the classroom. We don't want the kids to eat in the classroom because it attracts mice. I'm like, okay, we'll get some mouse traps. I mean, that's the worst argument I've ever heard.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, read my column and give me some feedback on the food story that I wrote. But the difference that teacher made in my life made me who I am today. Like that one teacher, Julius Pocamandi, when I started at Breakfast Television, I was asked, who are the 5 people that you'd like to have a part of the first week on the air? And I said, Trevor Linden, my friend Michael Bublé, who was like singing to nobody at a bar downtown when I was waitressing downtown. He's just like one of those nice people that made it huge. And he came on. Anyways, Rick Hansen was another hero, and Julius Pocamandi was another. And he was my cafeteria teacher because he was the one who saw in me something that launched me. He's why I have that red seal. And the red seal is why I'm a broadcaster, because that trade gave me security to know that I have something to fall back on. These are the things that teachers do.
Absolutely.
This is why we need to
I
pay
have my
teachers.
favorites too.
Right? We all have a teacher's story. Yeah. So let us know at George_Affleck, at Jody Vance on Twitter, at UnSpun Podcast is where you find us. Let's talk about the city. Okay, it's going to get decidedly more tense now.
Well, you could get me.
Kennedy Stewart. Let's start with Kennedy Stewart, though. He's going to. He has.
This morning we were here, there was a review, or he was doing my year in review kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he's been on a lot of network stations, shows.
Yeah, I heard him on Linda's
show. His year and getting ratings from him himself.
Re-announcing stuff. It felt like to me.
Yeah. Well, they haven't done anything much,
right.
really. I mean, he's the chief. Chief lobbyist.
Yes.
Chief lobbyist for the city of Vancouver. Anyways, but this week we've got the shit show at Oppenheimer continues.
I can't believe this, George, that we are still having the same conversation 44 weeks later. And we started this podcast, it was already a problem.
Yeah.
And we're staring it down now. You've said from day one, credit where credit is due on a horrible topic. It is going to take somebody dying in there for something to happen, isn't it?
Well, and this week we hear from the police that there are workers who are going in there trying to keep the place clean.
Right, because there's no functioning toilets.
And they're afraid because they get threatened.
By a knife,
and these people are just trying to help these people that are living there at least the functioning toilets and facilities that they asked for. And now those people who are going in to fix these facilities are being threatened and saying, I'm not going back in there. You're like, oh my God. So the danger is not only with each other that something will happen, much like it did back in 2011 where the woman overdosed at the art gallery when there was that protest there. And that's basically put a stop to that.
Right.
In this case, either it'll be somebody in a tent who will die for whatever reason, or it'll be a worker who's just there to try and do their job. And so the police are once again saying, this has to end.
Yeah, it has to end.
This has to end.
And
but it's not going to because park board
well, that's
won't
just
let it.
But I mean, there are a couple of people on the park board, John Cooper and Trisha Barker come to mind, who have been very, very vocal on
2 votes.
Something's right.
Yeah.
Let's get an injunction. Let's move forward. There are 100 tents down there. Some of them are storage, but there are 100 tents on a city park. I'm like, well, can't the mayor step in? Because I'm naive, right? So asked this and talked it through, and I listened to Stuart McKinnon, who's the park board chair, do an interview with, I believe it was Mike Smith, who was sitting in for Simi, and it was one of the most.
I'm sure Mike was very total Mike mode.
He was in Mike mode. Like, I'm not going to let you not answer my question. And my question is, why is this allowed to continue? And there was no clear, concise answer to it. It was very, and I don't know Stuart McKinnon personally. As the park board chair, do you know Stuart?
Well, he's kind of he's a nice guy when you meet him, but he's certainly not showing leadership. On this file, he said he's basically stated what he's going to state, but he's not really showing any kind of leadership as a. You never see him at other functions that the park board does. He doesn't.
He just likes the title. Like, what is it?
He kind of got the job. They vote whoever the chair is. It's not like the mayor where you vote for the mayor.
Right.
They have their first meeting and they decide who the chair will be. And so the majority of people in that room of park board decided it was going to be Stuart McKinnon. And so he will continue to be the chair, even if he doesn't appear, besides not kicking people out of Oppenheimer, to be doing much work at all.
So if the park board, because it kind of feels like Vision 2.0 to me, because I've been interacting.
Oh yeah, this Cope Green Alliance is basically Vision, which I've always argued they're
Let's move to the golf course. Let's go to the golf courses thing, because I spent a bunch of time on Twitter. Like,
the park board had they were going to have a great week. Because they had the pool, the community center,
the Van Splash,
and the Van Splash, and the pool, and the first community center got approved up in Marpole. The first community center, by the way, since the NPA were in power in 2007.
Jesus.
10 years of vision. No, not one community center was either approved or built.
Are you kidding me?
They did nothing for community centers, and
12 years.
10 years they're in power.
Right, but 12 years. You said
the
since
last one
2007.
Up,
it's 2019,
right. And it's still another 3 years before it's built.
Sweet.
So the last one was the one up on Main Street.
But I looked at the community center plan with the pool, and I looked at the whole Marpole once it was announced. I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
This is outstanding.
But Vision really didn't want. They were trying to get control of the community centers, so they wanted them off park board sites.
Right.
So they could
let
get
them
on
go
city sites.
decrepit.
They could control them, put the libraries together with them, lower the costs, shrink the footprints, which they've done in a couple of locations. But now we're back to the traditional structure of a community center, which is in the park with the control over by the local citizens. The management agreements are all complex, but on the same meeting. Guess what comes forward?
Oh, this motion about your head exploded.
I thought it was over last week. We talked about the golf courses and
Langara in particular.
Out of nowhere, this dude, Dave Demare, and the rest of the Green Cope Alliance decide that they're going to bring this as a priority for park board.
That's what. Okay, thank you.
Priority.
Because neither of us like to golf.
No.
We just don't. I have nothing against golf.
It's
I watch golf. I enjoy it.
For me to play golf, I think,
Exactly.
based on where the balls go.
It's my question was exactly that. How is this a priority now? How is anything a priority now when we're talking about what's going on at Oppenheimer Park and other parks in and around the downtown east side, and the parks that we're having issues like the homelessness and the affordability crisis, and the parks that are falling to disrepair that need attention of the park board? We're going to take on changing something that you informed me was revenue neutral.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, money comes in for all the golfing and all the stuff that they do on these sites. These golf courses are on a level of quality for the environment that is beyond the pale. It's fantastic. I mean, what was
the Audubon Society?
Audubon Society, which is a fancy thing for saying it's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
But the birds can come there.
And these are so I'm arguing against going, okay, and their argument is that nobody plays golf. I'm going, well, I play beach volleyball, but me and maybe 1,000 people in Vancouver play beach volleyball. I mean, it's literally accessing to our beaches where we put volleyball nets up. How dare we use this? I
love that.
What a waste of sand. I mean, it's like.
I love the nets, I don't play.
Yeah. What about cyclists? It represents 4% of our population that ride bikes to 4 or 5%. Yeah, we have bike lanes. We spend a lot of money on that. That argument that golf is not something that people do. I guarantee you there are more people who golf and play beach volleyball. And you'll say, well, they take up a lot of space. Well, okay, so what's the goal? We're going to take these golf courses away. They're going to have this report. They're going to spend years doing this report, spend millions of dollars doing
That
this report.
bugs
And then
me.
they're going to put a turf soccer field on the park, on a
No.
golf course? Well, sure, because we need more turf safe spaces. Our kids, they play soccer. They can't play on grass because it's too wet all year round. They play November to March soccer season. They want more turf court, So we're going to replace
Pitches.
grass
No.
and trees with soccer fields with turf, or what? What about basketball courts? How many people play basketball?
Oh, you know what?
Let's pave a bunch of parks and put some basketball courts up.
Basketball courts are part of the plans for the new Molson site, right? The Squamish
Right, yeah,
Nation.
yeah.
See, I'm pulling us at a golf course.
okay.
I'm taking us to this
All right,
because
so you got me going again.
I know I got you going, but we'll keep going on it. But we only got a couple minutes here to talk about, because I was scrolling through my Twitter. I was under the weather, and I was very much on Twitter in the last number of days, and I saw Tom Davidoff post about, like, I'm just waiting for the NIMBYs to show up, and I'm like, oh, Tom, what did I miss? And it was the Squamish First Nation had put out their plan for the site in and around the south end of the Broad Street Bridge, right, where the Molson Brewery is. 11 towers.
Kids Point.
Yeah, 11 towers, 6,000 apartments, rental.
Colleen Hardwick's neighborhood, by the way. She lives
Yeah,
right there.
and does she like it?
Oh, I don't think so. I can't imagine she would. She doesn't want to. I mean, she's all about single-family homes, isn't she?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
Anyways,
asking
but
you.
it's sort of right at the foot
But it was funny
on the other
because
side of the
it was
bridge.
funny. Well, I shouldn't say funny. It was interesting because Tom was like, "I'm just waiting for all the NIMBYs. Like, I've been a local here forever." And it's like, I think the Squamish Nation were here first.
Yeah, well,
like,
and they have no need for any input from the public.
No, they can do
or
whatever the hell they
city
want.
at all. The only thing they need the city for, and it will be
Infrastructure coming in,
water,
right?
sewer,
Yeah, yeah.
which will be, they can charge. We negotiate that every 5 years or
Right.
so with them, and so we'll potentially make money from this development. But they're offering a lot of rentals to this site too, right?
tons of rentals.
Which is
Thousands of rentals, and underneath the Broad Street Bridge, the artist rendering of what the final product would look like. It's got a bunch of greenery under it and basketball courts. So it's basically a covered area at a school that right now is like
right. Yeah, the one on
used for
Cambridge
nothing.
Bridge that has, which is like that. It's
brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant. I love that. I love everything about it except for the tallest building's going to be 56 stories.
Excellent.
Right? See, I'd rather two 30-foot stories or 30-story buildings.
Why?
56, because it just seems too Manhattan for my love of Paris. I think we're a small enough city that we don't go that high.
Once you're building, just keep building. Go 100 stories.
And you and I don't disagree on much, but I disagree with you on the 100 stories.
It's airspace. It's free. It's not I live in a 30-story tower development
Right,
downtown.
and I don't
Next
have a
door
problem.
is a 40-story, and next door to that is a 50-story one.
What's 50 stories? How tall is Vancouver House?
54.
Right, that's a big.
The one beside
fat
me is
building.
52 across the street, the 42 on the other side. And I can't. I look from the bottom. I go, I can't tell the difference. They all look the same to me. Right. And they're narrow towers, very narrow towers, which is a key part of this. I think not these big blocky.
The towers actually look really cool. They're like three-sided kind of, and they got greenery. I'm not anti-tower.
And by the way,
I'm
rendering will never be what it looks like in the end. But
I'm
it's nice.
anti-skyscraper in Vancouver. I know you hate that when
Where
I say
will
that.
George
but I don't
Jetson park his jet when he flies into the top of the?
Where will he walk Elroy?
Elroy will have a jetpack.
Oh, that's right. Is his boy? It's what's his name?
My
What's
dog
his dog?
Leroy. No, Elroy.
His boy Elroy, daughter Judy, Jane, his wife, Astro. Astro's the name of the dog. That's all we've got time for. At George_Affleck, at Jody Vance. Go to the orca.ca. I'm back, baby.
She's singing. Bye.